Welcome to Books, Bullets, and Booze. I'm Jack Cohen, and today we're going to be reviewing the indie book Starship's Mage. But before we talk about the book, let's get the booze part of the review out of the way. The crew in this book mentioned drinking whiskey, but the type's never named. Since the author's Canadian, I decided to go with Seagram's VO. It's a blended Canadian whiskey. What does the VO stand for? I don't know. I've heard very old. I've heard very own, as in our very own. I don't know. Not sure. Cooling it with my usual frozen fake bullets instead of ice. And I've never had it before, so it should be interesting. Originally, this series was actually a bunch of novellas. Starship's Mage is written by author Glenn Stewart. He spells his name a little different. It's Glynn. And his universe is fascinating. Now, okay, a lot of people don't like to mix sci-fi with their fantasy. They don't like their chocolate with their peanut butter. Let's see who's old enough to remember that commercial. Yeah, that's not bad. It's not bad at all. It's kind of creamy. A little caramel. It's not bad. I've had worse. I've had better, but I've definitely had worse. I don't really know anybody who drinks this outside. My father used to do it way back when I was a kid. But yeah, this isn't bad at all. All right, back to the book. Stewart's world concept is fascinating. Uh, okay, shameless plug time. I've written a series called Recollections of the Rune Knight. Keyword there is rune. In fact, the very first book is called Runes of Steel. Every single book in that series has the word runes in it. Admittedly, I am pro runes. By the way, if this is a drinking game and you have to drink every time I say runes, I really hope you have somebody that can drive you home. So, obviously, I like runes. That being said, Glenn Stewart completely flips the idea of magic runes on its head. In his universe, while they call their abilities magic, mages are actually the result of a forced eugenics program back in the past to create people with psychic powers. They just call it magic. In fact, to amplify their powers, they can carve these runes into their skin where they pour this special metal into it, specifically in their hands, and they get more powerful. It amplifies the powers. Now, in the time where the book takes place, which is many years after that program, or centuries, the majority of the human worlds are ruled by somebody called the Mage King of Mars. Oh, that is a great title. The Mage King of Mars. Yeah, that evokes a lot of imagery. That's good. I like it. Yeah, I like this too. It's not bad. Now, Mars is where the eugenics program took place. And that's where the seat of the government is. Mages, well, not strictly speaking an upper class. Okay, so here's the deal. They really are an upper class. They just don't call themselves that, but they are. Right? They've got powers and abilities beyond that of regular humans, and they have a lot of perks because of it. And there are some humans that don't like that. They resent it. They're suspicious of their powers. They're jealous. So they've gone off and they've settled some planets, which are collectively known as the unarcana worlds. Oh, that's a great term. Yeah, it's got a lot of good stuff like that in this book. And in the unarcana worlds, mages aren't allowed to land on the planet. They're forbidden. That being said, they do have them in their spaceships. And there's a reason for this. And the universe that Stewart has created, there's no such thing as faster than light drive. So how do they get from planet to planet? Right? Unless you have that or some other fictional version of it or sleeper ships, it's very tough to do that. The planets are vast distances away. This part's ingenious. Instead, the ships rely on something called jump mages. The hulls of all the starships have runes engraved into them, and they're linked, and the links go all the way up to this special chamber inside each starship. And in the middle of that chamber is the exact replica of the starship that just hangs right there in the middle. So a jump mage will go into that chamber, and they'll take those runes that are carved in their hands with that special metal, and they place it directly on that replica. This connects the runes on their skin to the runes on the hull of the starship, and it vastly amplifies their powers and lets them jump the ship great distances. And that's how they get from different systems. Great idea. I mean, just so cool. So obviously, this is going to be exhausting for the mage, and it is. In fact, if a mage pushes themselves too hard, they can burn out their powers. They can even die. Because of this, most starships will employ multiple jump mages, and they'll cycle them in between jumps. It gives them time to sleep and eat and recover. All right, it's a good system. So in his book, there's two types of mages. Stewart has something called mages by blood, and they're all directly descended from members of the eugenics program. Though, members is the wrong word, right? I mean, they were forced participants in this program. They never had a choice in the matter. So, members is not probably the right term. The other type of mage is mages by right. And what they are people born of normal human families with no history connected with that program, but they're born with the powers and abilities of a mage. Well, how does that happen? It's generally believed that they're either descended from washouts of the program, or maybe there's a mage by blood somewhere in the family line that nobody knows about. Either way, they're born of a normal human family, but yet they've got mage abilities. And this is what the protagonist of the book is. Newly graduated jump mage Damien Montgomery is trying to find a job. He just graduated from jump mage school. He's out there looking, trying to get employment. However, as a mage by right, he's got no family to pull strings, and he finds himself consistently beat out of jobs by less qualified candidates who, simply by being mages of blood, they have better connections. Well, he's looking for a ship. David Rice, who's the human captain of the cargo freighter Blue Jay, is looking for a jump mage. Because when a crime syndicate attacks his ship, he and his crew are forced to defend themselves, and this results in the death of one of his jump mages. So Rice returns to the world of Shorewood, which just happens to be where Damon Montgomery is looking for a job. And he goes there to try to hire another jump mage, but he finds himself blacklisted by the family of the dead crew member who blame him for the death. So you can kind of see where this is going. You got a jump mage looking for a ship. You got a ship looking for a jump mage. Thanks to a classmate of Montgomery's, he hears about the job and he applies for the position on David Rice's ship. And he's hired as a jump mage for the Blue Jay. And there he finds a new family among the crew. So, before I get into the crew, I want to talk about one specific crew member. And that is the first pilot. He's an older gentleman named Navar Singh. And Mr. Singh likes his weapons. In fact, he practically bristles with them. And he's got all sorts of different weapons, but we're only going to talk about one type in here. And that particular type, he carries two of them. He's got a matching set. And that is the kukri. Now, the kukri is best described as either a short sword or a long knife, large knife. Neither description does this very distinct blade justice. This is, it originated in and is the national weapon of Nepal. And it grew in fame because of its use by Nepal soldiers, the Gurkhas, not to be confused with the pickle. You don't want to do that. These are legitimate badasses. many of which went on to serve with the British Army. The weapon gained fame in the Gurkha War, and then it continued. Its use was continued in both World War One and World War Two, which just enhanced its reputation among the Allied troops. As a matter of fact, there's a story I heard about a Gurkha unit that was stationed in, I think it was North Africa. They sent a report back after battle basically saying, enemy losses 10 killed. Our losses none. Ammunition spent 0. In other words, they killed all 10 of them with their knives, specifically these knives. Now, Gurkhas, the blades, usually have a fuller that runs about here. I don't have one. Instead, I've got some sort of script here. I don't know if you can see it. It's kind of neat, and this is an old blade, so it's kind of hard to read. Not that most people could read whatever it says in the first place, but normally there's a fuller there. And then there's this notch. Some people say it's ceremonial, that it's supposed to be the hoof of a cow. Others say that it's functional, that you can cut twine or rope or whatever off of it. Some people say that it marks the end of the edged part of the blade right here. I think the actual reason's probably lost in the mists of history. But hey, they all make good stories. Now, the handles are usually made of a hardwood or water buffalo horn, sometimes ivory. Mine is made of a bone. What type of bone? I have no idea. Hopefully not human. But it's a cool, very cool knife. I bought it in a bazaar in Turkey, right outside of Incirlik Air Base. And back in, 1990, back when I was in the military, full head of hair, money to burn, which I did, buying toys like this. All right, not that it's really a toy. A kukri typically comes in, sometimes it's a wooden sheath. Sometimes it's leather. Mine's leather. It's pretty beat up. It's very old. Feels like paper almost at this point. I've had this a long time, and this isn't a wall hanger. This didn't come from a mall. This seen service, and it was used for years before it ever came into my hands. So it's old and it's beat, and that's what makes it so very cool to own. Now, the scabbard holds 2 blades, here and here. You've got the chakma, which hopefully I pronounced that right. I did my best. But public school education. I'm lucky I can speak English half the time. So the checkmark is used as, I just said checkmark. The checkmark, God, I hope I pronounced that correctly, was often used as a sharpener, kind of like a sharpening stone with the blade. It was also sometimes used to light a fire, similar to flint and steel. You'd strike it off something else, flint or whatever, to start a fire. The second one is called a kardar, and this was used for skinning. This one was sharp, the other one was dull, and you'd use it to, cut a small animal or whatever, to skin it, things along those lines. Now, unlike a straight edge sword, the center of mass on one of these just combines with the angle, and it's weird. It's a chopping weapon, but it slices as it chops. And I just had an image of one of those infomercials as I said that. It slices as it chops, but that's not all. The edge slides across the target surface, right? And it just, because of it, it's got a force with this swing that's so much more than your normal blade. It impacts greater, and it inflicts very deep wounds, and it can actually break and cut through bone if you do it right. This is a nasty piece of work as far as warfare is concerned. But it's not just used for that. This is actually a multi-purpose tool in Nepal. It's used for everything. You can use it as an axe. You can use it as a shovel. It's used for building things, cutting wood. It's used for digging. You can chop firewood with it. It's just, whatever chore you need where you need something cut, this was used for it, or is used for it. All right, so that's the weapon portion. Let's get back to that crew. So I mentioned Navar Singh, who's one of my favorite characters in this book. He's, well, he likes his toys. He likes his weapons. I get that. I'm fall right into that category myself. So who else is on that crew? You have First Officer Jenna Campbell. You have Chief Engineer James Keller. And you have Junior Engineer Kelly Lamont. Now, Kelly is another good character. So much so, you know what? I'm not going to say what I was going to say because that was a spoiler, and I'm not going to do it. So, but Kelly's interesting. Kelly has some cool plot. Kelly also happens to be the crew member that is closest to Damon Montgomery's age. So they kind of bond. They can, there's stuff they can talk about that some of the older crew, he necessarily wouldn't be comfortable doing so. There's other crew members. It's a big ship, but those are the key ones that the book focuses on. Now, together, this crew tries to eke out a living among the stars. They're freighters. They pick up cargo to go from place to place. And this is where the book takes off. Everything I told you, that's just the beginning stuff. The book really gets interesting at this point. And if you want to know more about it, read the book. It's good. I just gave you a taste. I gave you the appetizer. You want the full meal, go order this book. And you should. You really should. It's fantastic. Its sequels are fantastic. Glenn Stewart did a phenomenal job with this. It's the first of a series, as I just sort of kind of mentioned, and it's got several spin-offs as well. All of these books collectively are known as the Starship Mage universe. And Stewart does a great job with both this book and the sequels. His characters are all three-dimensional. His writing style isn't full of techno-babble. It's not flowery. It's clean, and it gets the story across in a very even pace. It makes it very hard to put this book down. In fact, I'm one of those people that likes to read before they go to sleep. Sometimes this comes back to bite me. It did it with this series, well, this book. How to do that? Well, I get to the end of the chapter. I'm supposed to close the book, go to sleep. Got work the next day. No. I lost several hours of sleep thanks to this book. And you know what? It was worth it. Its sequels are even better. And they expand the backstory of this universe very nicely. I highly recommend Starship's Mage by Glenn Stewart. Go get it. As for the kukri, this makes a great camp knife. I got a camp. I got a bunch of acres up north in the woods, and a good camp knife is indispensable, and a kukri makes a great camp knife. As a matter of fact, obviously I wouldn't use this one. It's an antique, but there are several manufacturers, some in the States, that make kukris. And you can get one, and they're great. They're a multi-purpose tool, and you can just, if you're out camping or whatever, you get one strapped to your belt, you'll be shocked how often you find yourself going to it. As for Seagram's VO, boy, that disappeared quickly. What happened? Might be a leak in my glass. Yeah, this is an enjoyable drink. As I mentioned, it's kind of creamy. You can taste the caramel. Is it the best whiskey I ever had? No. Is it the worst? Hell no. If somebody offered me, would I accept it? In a heartbeat. Yeah, no, this is good. I like it. I'll be drinking again in the future. Okay, so that's it. Go get that book. Thank you very much, and you have a great day.